The ODI tournament finally concluded in Sri Lanka. This despite multiple rain breaks, some unfortunate injury scares and some very hard questions that a few of the subcontinent sides will ask themselves ahead of the World Cup here in India. Like Sri Lanka, who will wonder just what happened to them. Now let's be honest, sure the better team won, but to be bundled out for 50, their second lowest ODI total, would have made any of the Lankan greats squirm. And a few injury concerns too ahead of the World Cup. A lot of headaches for captain Dasun Shanaka, who apologized for disappointing the Lankan crowd, who would come out in huge numbers despite the weather to support them. He rued his decision to bat first, admitting that a better application was definitely lacking, and went on to give India credit for their solid performance. Pakistan, a team that was touted to give every other side a run for their money. Now, it's not just the injury concerns with some of their key pacers who may not be available for the World Cup. Reports have emerged of a flare-up between the skipper Babar Azam and the lead pacer Shaheen Afridi in the dressing room. Babar is said to have asked all seniors to stand up and deliver, and Shaheen had interrupted him. Any sort of tiffs of this kind doesn't bode well ahead of the World Cup. That's a space that will be developing and more coming out of from there. But we have to focus on India, who emerged winners, beating one of the co-hosts, Sri Lanka, in a mortifying one-sided affair. We should also definitely look on the most heartening side for India to prime them for one of the biggest challenges that's coming up. Now, fans often end up glorifying the batters, and understandably so. The sight of someone thunking a delivery miles beyond the ropes or high up into the sky is a gorgeous sight. And yes, batters always prove to be a clinical cog in the scheme of things. But it is the bowlers who can turn a match around. So yes, batters may turn the tide, but it's the bowlers who will win you the games. Particularly two young ones who have inflicted most damage in this tournament. Now, when I say Hyderabad and cricket, what comes to your mind? Maybe some of the wristy, classy batters like Azharuddin or VVS Lakshman. No one can quite forget their impact on Indian cricket. Or maybe the host of spinners they have produced, Arshad Ayub, Venkatapati Raju, Pragyan Oja, all who've made a mark on the national stage. But you wouldn't have thought that from these very parts a pacer would emerge. Much less like Mohammed Siraj. There's something special about Siraj. Born to a family of extremely modest origins, his father, who was a rickshaw driver, and his mother, who was a house help. When Siraj started to dream big, he was just 7 years old. Being the highest wicket taker in the Saeed Mushtaq Ali T20 tournament in the 2015-2016 edition meant a Team India call-up in the shortest format a year later in 2017. He was the leading wicket taker in the 2017 Vijay Hazare tournament, and that meant a Team India call-up for the ODI format the very next year. That was against Australia. In 2018, Siraj also moved from the Hyderabad to the Bengaluru franchise in the Indian Premier League and created a bit of a record by becoming the first bowler in the history of the IPL to score back-to-back maiden overs in a single match. We are in the year 2020. At the end of the same year, Siraj makes his test debut against a formidable Australia in an unforgettable test series. A series during which Siraj lost his father, couldn't go back home to complete the rites due to COVID, faced racial abuse, and despite all this, finished as the series as the highest wicket taker for India to help script a massive come-from-behind historic win. I even remember when the entire team handed him the national flag to make the rounds around the stadium. Siraj is clearly the milestone man for working under the radar. The match against Sri Lanka, another example to reiterate this. Now, the figures of 6 for 21 shattered many records, a couple of them where he equaled the man here, Chaminda Vas, one of Sri Lanka's greats. First Indian bowler to take 4 wickets in an over, he equaled the Lankan here. Joint fastest fifer in ODIs in just 16 deliveries. Again, someone who'd done it before, Chaminda Vas. And that's not all. He's the 4th fastest Indian to 50 ODI wickets after Ajit Agarkar, who took 23 matches, the chief selector currently. His teammates Kuldeep Yadav and Jasprit Bumrah. But he's the 2nd fastest in terms of a number of deliveries bowled 1,002 only, just behind Ajanta Mendes, who only took 847 deliveries to get there first. And his figures is also the fourth best by any Indian. Keeping him company in that elite list, Stuart Binney, and we remember that it was against Bangladesh, Anil Kumble, and of course, Jasprit Bumrah himself. Best bowling figures by an Indian, of course, we've seen this list. It is incredible. The ability to swing the ball deceptively and bowl long spells, that's what VVS says is very key when he was asked about Siraj. He says Siraj has abundance of skill, and we have seen enough examples of that on display. His records re-emphasize that. And as far as bowling long spells go, Siraj is the kind of bowler who wouldn't stop bowling. And with the World Cup upon us, this man is just about hitting the right stride. Much like our second youngster who came out shining, Kuldeep Yadav. A new and improved Kuldeep Yadav, that's whom we saw in this series and who has been building up to that in the last few months to come. Player of the series in the Asia Cup, he wouldn't have dreamt of this himself even a few months ago. Coaches close to him say that the turning point, or rather what hit him hard, was not getting a single game in the Kolkata IPL setup in 2021. The knee surgery, of course, that year made matters worse. But his stint with Delhi last year is what made things look up again. The confidence came back. And with that, the wheels of fortune started turning. The second key phase was the time he spent at the NCA with former selector Sunil Joshi, an India bowler. He made small tweaks to his run-up and the speed of his deliveries. He straightened his run-up a good measure instead of angling in, and also increased the revs and speed of his deliveries, making him more difficult to read and a key factor in this setup. Now, one concern, though, for India in its preparations, just a bit of it, will be Axar Patel's availability. The all-rounder was announced in the World Cup squad. There is no confirmation on the extent of his injuries. All we know is that he couldn't take the field for the final. Washington Sundar was flown in. And the hamstring has made him possibly unavailable for the upcoming short ODI series against Australia. The squad for which rather, will be announced at 8:30 on the 18th of September. That's later today. If he's unsure of making it to the World Cup, who could be India's backup options? Of course, Washington Sundar is one. It's a like-for-like call-up. But there is a very outside possibility that translating into the World Cup scenario of someone else, a dynamic and senior option. This is a space we will watch out for more, of course, but who could be this option? Listening to the captain himself.
With the spinners all-rounder, I think everyone is in the line. Honestly speaking, Ashwin as well. I've been talking to him on the phone. So he's very much in the line. So is Washi, because we want those guys who can do the job with the ball and with the bat as well. Washi was, honestly, that injury happened to Axar last minute, very late in the day, in the night, honestly. And then we had to call a few guys to see where they are at. And Washi was available, so we had to get Washi to, come and play the role, perform the job for us. Luckily, he was with the squad for the Asian Games in Bangalore. He was training, he was bowling, so he was cricket fit. He was spending a lot of time on the field, so we had to get him. But yeah, I've been very clear with certain guys who can come up and play certain roles. So I've been talking to everyone.
Well, that's interesting. Rohit Sharma almost saying that our Ashwin, who's been out of the ODI outfit for a while now, has an outside chance of possibly being there. Of course, we do want Axar Patel to get fit, but this is something that will be developing. And we here at Firstpost will cover the World Cup extensively. So keep tuning in for all the analysis and updates regarding that.